Calix Boxing here. Hit that sub button for nightly boxing videos. September divisional rankings. People always tell me, Calix, you're always bashing rankings, always talking about people's rankings, so why don't you do your own? Here you go. I'm going to start doing these rankings every month. I'm going to break this into three parts, being that there are so many freaking divisions. And not going to touch on all of them, actually. Not going to touch on cruiserweight or the very, very, very light divisions because quite frankly I don't care much about those divisions, but I'll touch on four today, four this weekend, and then four early next week. Tonight it's going to be heavyweight, light heavyweight, super middleweight, and middleweight. So let's get at it, and it's going to be top five of each division. Let's touch on heavyweights first. Obviously, I have Tyson Fury number one, 25-0. He's fighting October 29th against Vladimir Klitschko. Why do I have Tyson Fury number one? Because he beat the man. He became the man by beating the man. Did it old school. Beat Vladimir Klitschko, a guy who barely lost any rounds in a whole decade. And he beat him and made it look easy. I thought he won like 9, 10 rounds in the fight. I think like 10 rounds I had him winning in that fight. So looked very good doing it. I have Tyson Fury number one. Number two, I have the guy who he beat, Vladimir Klitschko. Vladimir Klitschko, 64-4. Like I said, went a whole decade without basically losing too many rounds, but lost easily. I mean, lost widely on the scorecards against on my scorecard against Vladimir Klitschko last year, and I still have him number two because he's coming back for the rematch. Coming back for the rematch, I'm showing that respect and saying, hey, I'm not going to drop you all the way down like many people did. I'm only going to drop you to number two. You still at number two. You're still going to have a shot to win the title back. And if Tyson Fury doesn't come in shape, you got a shot at doing that. I just don't think I think Klitschko is too robotic, and Tyson Fury is too fluid. I think it's a nightmare matchup for Vladimir Klitschko. But props to him for fighting him again October 29th and coming back for that belt, especially that old and that late in his career. But I still got him at number two. Now this is where it starts to get a little murky. This is when you can do numerous things here, go down many different roads. Um, I have Deontay Wilder number three. Deontay Wilder 37-0. Now Deontay Wilder doesn't have the greatest resume in the world, but he has beat down the guys who he has fought. He did beat Stavern, and the reason I have him ahead of Povetkin, even though Povetkin in the past has had a better resume, obviously, but Povetkin as of recently, the fight with Wilder didn't happen, and it seems to be pretty much Povetkin's doing that fight didn't happen. No, I'll plead ignorance. I don't know exactly what happened with the drug testing, but from what I hear, Povetkin something with a sample. I don't know, but basically Povetkin something happened with his drug test and sat out for a while, and now he's going to fight Stavern, a guy who Wilder just beat not too long ago. So I put Wilder ahead of Povetkin. You can go either way with that, though. I have Povetkin number four. And I have Luis Ortiz number five. The reason I have him number five over Anthony Joshua, even though I think Anthony Joshua will end up being a better heavyweight down the road, but Ortiz at 25-0 just beat Brian Jennings. Brian Jennings is a better win than anybody on Anthony Joshua's resume, and especially after Jennings really gave Klitschko a tough fight the fight before. So I've got Luis Ortiz at number five, and I have Anthony Joshua right outside of the top five at number six. But once again, if you want to put Joshua in your top five, obviously as the talent, I just tend to go with resume over talent, and Brian Jennings is a better win than anything Anthony Joshua has on his resume. Let's get to light heavyweight. Sergey Kovalev, obviously number one on my rankings, 30-0-1. I have him ahead of Stevenson because of what he's done recently. Once again, beating Pascal twice, beating Hopkins back in late 2014, I believe that fight was. Even though Hopkins up there in age, he's still fought him for multiple belts, beat him clearly, beat him up, beat him how Hopkins has never been beat up before, beat Pascal twice. Had to react to some things Pascal was doing early in the fight. In the first fight, Pascal was having some success, and Kovalev reacted and did well late in that fight, and then beat him down in the second fight as well, and then beat an awkward Chilimba. So Kovalev number one. I got it down to Stevenson number two. Um, hasn't been doing much recently, but he did beat Fonfara not too long ago, and I think the Thomas Williams Jr. win is a little bit of an undervalued win. I think that's a good win. Williams Jr., although a flawed fighter, can be tough, awkward guy, and can punch. So I thought that was a decent win. So I got Stevenson number two at 28-1. Andre Ward, I have him number three by default. Really, he hasn't really done anything at light heavyweight, but there's a vacuum there. There isn't. It's a division that's deep with guys who are good. You know, I mean, decent, but it's not anybody who's going to stick out to you past the top two of Stevenson and Kovalev, and therefore I think Andre Ward fills a vacuum there and goes to number three, straight to number three in those rankings, even though hasn't really done anything at light heavyweight, and he is fighting Kovalev next, so that pretty much gets him to number three on my rankings. Bererbiev, number four, 10-0. He's finally back off of this shoulder surgery. Good fighter, and they're moving him along well. So I got him at number four, ahead of guys who are more experienced, but they're moving him along well. And Shabransky, 17-0. Beat Gonzalez on HBO. Hasn't done much since then, but that was a very good fight on HBO last year, and he looked good in an action-packed fight. So I got him at number five, and look out for him. He can do big things. Honorary mention right outside of that top 25. I got top five. Excuse me. I got Joe Smith Jr., who's coming off of a good win against Fonfara. So he shocked the world by beating Fonfara and bounced up the rankings. So Joe Smith Jr. right outside of the top five at light heavyweight. Super middleweight, none other than James DeGale. James Chunky DeGale, 23-1. His only loss to Groves a while back, but I don't think there's any doubt that he's a better fighter than George Groves at this point. And I like DeGale a lot. The upside is very good, and he's fighting Badu Jack now. Speaking of Badu Jack, I got him number two. So you got the number one and number two guys on my rankings that are about to fight each other. Looking forward to that. They're fighting each other in Vegas this winter. So that should be a very good fight. Badu Jack, a guy who beat Anthony Dirrell, beat George Groves, beat Lucian Bute. I mean, he's got a very good resume as of late. Very good. And I say he beat Lucian Bute. It was a draw, but I thought he won the fight. Most people thought if not everybody, thought he won that fight. So Badu Jack, a guy who's coming along nicely, and that's a guy who a couple of years ago I didn't think much of, but he's coming along nicely and beating some nice fighters. So look out for that fight. I like DeGale in that fight. I like DeGale against pretty much anybody at 168, and I think he'd give Triple G a hell of a fight if Triple G were to ever move up to 168. So I got DeGale number one, Jack number two, Gilberto Ramirez 34-0 at number three. He's out right now with a hurt hand, but he just beat Arthur Abraham, and he doesn't have too many wins that really stick out to you. But once again, there is a vacuum there after the top two, and I think he fills it nicely because he's an ultra talented fighter who can do some things once his hand heals up in the future. I got Anthony Dirrell. Actually, you know what? I got Anthony Dirrell number three above Ramirez. The reason I do is he has some nice wins in the near past, and he just bounced off of that loss with the Caleb Truex win. So I got Dirrell number three. That may be controversial with people, but once again, resume. I think he's fighting tougher opposition in the near past. So I got him number three. I got Gilberto Ramirez number four. And I got George Groves number five. The reason I got George Groves number five over some other guys at super middleweight, that may be more talented than him is, once again, the toughness of fighters he's fought. I mean, he fought Froch twice. He fought um, drawing blanks right now, but he fought Badu Jack. He fought James DeGale in the past, and he just beat Martin Murray to bounce back from losses. And he's putting together some nice wins. So a nice win streak. So I got him bouncing back into the top five. Now middleweight is sketchy. The reason I say middleweight is sketchy because you got a couple guys who are bouncing between middleweight and super welterweight, bouncing back and forth, and you got guys who are fighting at middleweight who aren't really fighting each other, and once again, it creates a vacuum. So this may be controversial. People may have problems with this top five, but I got Gennady Golovkin number one. To me, that's indisputable. That's undebatable. I got him number one at 35-0. Most ducked fighter in boxing, arguably, and definitely the most ducked fighter at middleweight. Number two, here's where it gets sketchy. I got Canelo Alvarez number two. This goes against a lot of my thinking as far as toughness of opposition, and Canelo hasn't really done anything at middleweight, but what he has done is he beat Miguel Cotto, who was the lineal champ, and I put that in parentheses at the time, and Miguel Cotto was coming off some really good victories at middleweight. Alvarez beat him, but Alvarez bouncing back to basically 154 at this point, but we all know he's going to be fighting at 160. That's why I sort of keep him at 160 and not 154. And the reason I have him number two, even though he hasn't done much, is he did beat Miguel Cotto. Those two guys did fight each other. And those two guys, you could say, are top five in that division. So, I mean, that did happen, and that is a better win. Canelo Alvarez beating Miguel Cotto at the catchweight in between 154 and 160 for the middleweight title. That is a better win than anything Danny Jacobs has done at middleweight. So I got Canelo at number two. I got Miguel Cotto still at number three, even coming off the loss over Danny Jacobs. Because once again, the strength of schedule. Even coming off the loss, I still got him above Danny Jacobs. But Danny Jacobs, number four. And by the way, I don't think that's going to last. That's why I do this month by month. I think Danny Jacobs, once he gets it going, he's fighting Sergio Mora Friday. That doesn't do much, but hopefully he steps it up in the next fight or two, and Miguel Cotto will cease to exist at middleweight because he's about to fight Lamont Peterson. So that's going to go away. But as of right now, as of today, as of September, I got Miguel Cotto at number three, Danny Jacobs at number four, 31-1, fighting Sergio Mora this Friday. And once again, like I said, that doesn't do much for his resume. I got Billy Joe Saunders at number five, and that's a shame because coming off the Andy Lee win, I'd like to rank him higher, but this guy doesn't want to fight anybody. And I think I heard he's going to be fighting some random guy in October, and that pretty much takes him out of the sweepstakes for Canelo in December. So it just seems like he doesn't want to, even against the face of boxing, Canelo, it seems like he talked himself out of that fight. Big money fight against the top middleweight. Should have took the fight. Should have fought on the Canelo undercard, and should have edged his way into a showdown with Canelo in December. But it seems like he's talked himself out of that, and it's a shame. It's a shame because there does seem to be talent there, and he's just the business side of Billy Joe Saunders is a mess right now. So those are my rankings for heavyweight, light heavyweight, super middleweight, middleweight. Y'all let me know what y'all think. Am I crazy? Do y'all like it? Hit me up. Peace.